Oh. That was great.
Yeah. It's the first time really. We were working so hard to the last minute to kind of bring it. So much for having the time for joining in. I prepared kind of a talk with you because I think you are all very special people that has this experience living here, having artists in. Some of you are also artists, so it's like an exchange. But what I have kind of prepared is maybe to show you some works that were very important in my process and that maybe were kind of game-changing for me. So I am carioca, meaning that I live in Rio de Janeiro. It's a city very narrow that is between the mountains and the sea. So every time the city needs to grow, it grows by landfilling sea spaces. And my father was a fisherman. When he could, he would go to the sea. So since I'm very, very little, I have the memories of going to fish with him. He wouldn't be fishing like this, he would scuba dive. So somehow it was tedious because I would stay hours on the boat. But on the other hand, he was he kind of offered for me and my sisters and brothers a very proximate relation with nature. And so it's so much so that my mother died very early. I was only 2. So many times I called, because the name of sea in Portuguese is very close, sounds very close to mother. It's mar e mãe. So many times I mixed those names because the sea for me was very much a motherhood, because I was very early going to the sea. Like, he wouldn't care much. I think he trusted that we could just survive. And I lived many, many adventures on sea. And so I have this feeling of being received, which I think is quite special because many people feel afraid and kind of scared with the sea, with the openness. But for me, this openness was kind of a womb, always kind of embracing me. So I will start from the end and then go backwards. The last 4 years, I have been reading Italian philosopher that works in France. His name, it's Emanuele Coccia, and he, for me, it's a very interesting guy because he decided to make his studies on the plants and going back to the Greeks, but in a very, for me, new approach, making all kinds of relationship with, because many people now are studying the trees and the plants, and so we know that the plants can see, they can hear, they can relate, they communicate. But Emanuele Coccia, for me, he does like some kinds of connections with other ideas that were not familiar. and it was very important to assimilate his ideas and bring to my work. So this phrase, for me, it's also striking. He says that the antithesis of birth is not death, but it's seeing your body generates other body. So this is about metamorphosis, is his last book, and he makes the whole book on top of this idea of metamorphosis, that like how radical it is for a worm to become a butterfly. So worms are like beings that eat, and they are connected to the earth, and then they go through a metamorphosis process, and then there is the butterfly that can fly, that is driven to sex, to mix up the flowers. So it's a kind of striking thing. This phrase was important because the work I have done in 2014, which is this one, I was invited to be part of an exhibition of huge sculptures, and this area is an area that I used to pass by all the time because my grandparents used to live nearby, and it's one of the first neighborhoods in Rio that was developed. So the sea was right there. So every time there was the sea would go up, how do you call this, kind of storm or something, it would wash away the houses and so on. So there were 3 expansions in Rio and 3 huge landfills. So nowadays, this area, it's very hard to see the sea. It's like 10 kilometers away. So I was invited. This is a large square to be part of this exhibition. And when I was a child and I would visit this neighborhood, I was always imagining, gosh, this was sea. So what is underneath? Because they covered everything. And I was just imagining all sorts of things that could be hidden under the seabed. So I decided to bring to take away from Guanabara Bay, which is a huge bay that it's right in front, and take away a boat and put there. So make a kind of turn around, kind of bring back again the sea idea, the boat there, the presence of a boat. And this was kind of an odyssey for me, because it took me 2 years. I searched for boats everywhere. There was no way to find a boat that I wanted. So the day I gave up, a man that was kind of a poor man sitting on the street, he said, "Do you want a boat?" I said, "Yeah," because he was, every day I was there talking to everyone. And he said, "I know a guy that has a boat, and he will be willing to give you." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, come on, come with me." And I went to the shipyard, and the boat was there, and the name of the boat is God Bless Him. So this is a thing that changed my artistic process, because before this work, I would work with kind of textile. I would I'm not sure how it says this. It's weave. I would weave long pieces of agave. Do you know agave? It's a vegetable, a vegetable fiber, and I would make long sheets, would dye them, and then would hang in different shapes and long pieces, very large kind of work related to architecture. When this came about, this work was so important. I spent like 2 years working absolutely on it. You know, I was, because, can you pass the next? We took from the bay, so it was 8 years already there, full of mud. So when we managed to pull the boat, the last bit fell on the water, but still it was a 10 meters. I don't know how many inches, and so it's quite long, and so there was full of debris, and I had to clean that up, everything. I wanted to have just the bone, and then there's 40 tons of stone that I would land the boat. And once I've done this work and I just presented there, I knew, I had the feeling that I was dealing with something that would mark my artistic life for the whole kind of next years, the years to come, as I was talking about something that I couldn't really acknowledge at that moment, but now I know that it's about the cycles. I mean, to be able to take from death even, or for something that was absolutely forgiven, that would not be there anymore, then bring it back, leave some kind of process and present in another way. So this cycling kind of thinking and doing art, for me, it's something that is part of what I think I am doing in different ways. So once I have done this work, and the sea came to me as so important kind of thing to work, I said, I would like to work sculpting water. I would like to work with water, but how can I sculpt water? So the next kind of years, I spent like, afterwards, when the exhibition finished, I was invited to take part on a bid, a public bid, and this boat then is in a city across the bay called Niterói. Niterói is a indigenous, we don't say now, a native word for hidden waters. So I decided to open a hole, like I just say in meters, half of the size of the boat. So I put the boat there, sunk the boat again, and it's heading to the sea, to the direction where the sea is. And Niterói also was a city that had many landfills. So the sea used to pass by this area, this kind of, it's a park. So it's the people really like the sculpture, and it's still there. But then I was willing to sculpt with water, and I worked for some years with plastic bags. And these, I like large kind of things. These are like 40 meters high, like more or less the height of this room, and I would kind of make different kinds of situations. So this is just an example of one of the installations I have done. But as I was so concerned with nature and the sea, the plastic is super enemy of the sea, right? So I said that although I like to build sculptures like this using plastic bags, I decided that I could not use, I couldn't keep on doing what I was doing, and there came the glass for me. And the importance of coming to Pittsburgh, it's that I work with a guy in Rio that does glass for the pharmaceutical industry, and I just know one glass studio in São Paulo. That's it. And the old man that does the works for me in Rio, he doesn't let me come with him to the studio. So I have to plan everything, and I don't see the process. And in São Paulo, it's quite similar. I participate more, but it's a large fabric that he rents some time, and we go there and he blows the glass. But I don't see anything about the cold working, the furnaces, the annealer, nothing. So for me, coming to here was the first time in my life that I could just see how the whole chain is and what are the possibilities. So for sure it's gonna be like game changing again. So this is a piece that I've done in 2019 called Chalice, and I'm showing it there because it's, well, I've been studying water and doing all kinds of relations that water is so important. No? It's where life began, and there's so many kinds of poetic ways of thinking about water. But here in this piece, it was important because I connected some kind of spiritual meaning for me and a healing. This is a symbol for a sacred feminine symbol, the triangle. It's in many cultures, and it's the connection of the earth to the sky. And also, I start using water from kind of sacred places, very kind of pure water, cold running water, that I knew that was a connection with the healing. I studied German scientists in the 17th and 18th century that developed all kind of philosophy or ways of healing people from different diseases by taking them to cold and running water and making all sorts of electric kind of things that the bloods and the body happens to occur when you are exposed to that situation. So this is kind of it's very clear. I don't think you can you see? I did like a writing with those kinds of symbols. So this is earth to the sky, then the sky to earth, and then the both, which is the cross that we are winning man. It's the connection between the spirit and the earth. So after doing this work, I went on studying the thing about water, and I decided to use plants. I was already doing some works with trees, and I knew that the trees are such a powerful being to keep water on the atmosphere, underneath the earth and on top. In Brazil, that we have this such powerful climate, grown-up tree, a mature tree, can put into atmosphere 1 ton of water every day. This is why Amazonia is so important to the climate of all the South Hemisphere and all the South America, because it's what we call the running rivers, the flying rivers, which because it brings so much water vapor to atmosphere that it's about affects the climate in such a way, and it's so important. So I went to this kind of sacred place. It's a protect place, like 3 hours away from Rio on the mountains. And I went to get this cold and running water to do a work for an exhibition I did in 2019. And by then I have met an old lady that works with plants, with herbs, with medical herbs. And so I started studying with her, and I went to her house. This place is close to where she lives, and to collect the plants to do this work that you're gonna see right after. So this is just a register of this thing about the water. Just that. So the next work you see is called Force Field, and it was, I collected like 20 different kinds of herbs and plants, powerful plants, and I've done this kind of distribution on the wall. There were, I'm not sure, 17 or 19 pieces, and I realized that this was a kind of sound, how do you call it? Huh? Yeah, the melody came afterwards, but when I saw the thing on the wall, I asked a friend that she's a piano teacher if she could put those positions on a music staff, and that's the music that came out. So this work was super important to me because it is something that made me think about a more expansive experience with what I was doing. Like, I've never used color before. The color came out with the tinctures we prepared together. So there were colors, there was some textures from the plants, and there was this movement, because I used, I don't know how to say it in English, but a metal that was flexible. So it would, balance smoothly. And the sound came, and so I started thinking about a situation that I haven't achieved yet, and that I called as a vegetable symphony. I would like to make a work one day that I call a vegetable symphony, meaning coming together, bringing together the sound, the color, textures, smell, movement, and all sorts of odd situations that nature brings. I'm going to have an exhibition in Portugal on July, and I will be using smell for the first time on the space as a way of conducting the experience of the exhibition. So let's see how it comes. But till now, I don't think I have already gotten where I would like to, in terms of multi-sensorial and multi-everything kind of experience. So in last year, I have done 2 exhibitions using this same different idea of the force field, and I call it force field because for me, because I am studying with this old lady, she says that every time you prepare a tincture, and there is a connection with the moon, you have to take the plants in a new moon, hide them inside of a dark place, wait for 4 moon cycles, and then it's ready. She says that by then, the plant has given all its soul. So all the best properties the plant can offer for a certain purpose is there. And then you have like a year to profit from it. So having known that, and using those tinctures inside the glass pieces I do, for me they're always alive. They won't never be like dead things. And I feel that because I know where I brought the water from, it's like as if everything was there pulsating somehow. The place I've been to bring the water, the plants, her garden, what she does there, the sun, the breeze. So for me, this is why I call the force field, because I think there's many kinds of strengths there, kind of pulsing. And it's funny because I don't tell this to I don't explain everything like this, but people, they just like to be there. So people just stay long, very long times in the exhibition space. This is what we kind of felt during last year, because I've done this exhibition in São Paulo and a slightly different one in Rio. There, smaller space, more kind of narrow, and so this is a kind of, looks like an alchemy kind of studio. There is this kind of scientific approach, which I like. So now I am here. I think that this is about now. Next slide is about, yeah. So now I could come here, and this was a super kind of wonderful surprise. And but you didn't ask me to do a project, and I thought that this was wonderful, not to have us to be precise or, you know, strict to any kind of, attached to any kind of idea. I could just be here and feel, even because I didn't have this experience. So it was very hard to tell what I would like to do, because I didn't know what you're doing. And then I brought some ideas. I was talking with Jason and telling him more or less what my ideas were. So this was kind of very positive feedback for me, that you keep on doing this. I think this is very stimulating for an artist, to be able to be free and create in here. And so the first 2 days I just spent, I didn't bring the little pieces, not the plasticine pieces, but I was just like looking around, and I got some plasticine, and I started kind of building little things. And the first wish or desire I wanted to do here was to do a dream. I dream a lot about what I do. The words come very much to me, they come in dreams. So many times I wake up and I have the idea right there. And I had this dream that all my body was on fire, but it was not a bad fire. It was not a negative situation. It was a good situation in terms of heat, of power, of good thing. And my chest was like the ocean, was very wide, and it was a long lake. And I thought it was very beautiful, and I felt like trying to do this on glass. And so this is what I was needing. This is the idea, and I'm very happy with the outcome. I think it's a beautiful piece. There's the water, which is my face. I feel like a self-portrait. And then I wanted to develop other possibilities of working with the tinctures and the plants that were not this kind of scientific approach, that was more organic. So Andy did this lovely kind of, I got some sticks and he brought together. It's just an idea of open thing. I don't know how I'm going to work at home with this, but it's just like using the wood and the movement that wood give to us sometimes, and trying to bend. I use very much wood and metal in my pieces, so I don't know how it's going to be. But so we've done with Zach, with Maishan, who more? Blaine. I mean, we've done some Teresa, very much so. Pieces like this. There's another one upstairs we're working on. This one, like eggy kind of shapes, cell shapes. And so let's see. And I've done, Teresa gave me some names of important herbs in America, and I know that sage is one of maybe the most important. So I've done some experience trying to build some crystals, and we went to organic sage And in the 21st of March, we had a very powerful new moon. For those who believe or not believe, don't believe, this is kind of the beginning of the year 2023, and was kind of, we are changing now. We are leaving the Pisces area and going to Aquarius, and this year and the next year is going to be very bumpy still because we are in this kind of the change. But this month is very powerful, and I'm happy that I was here and that I could do this tincture of sage. So for me, this is an American talisman. And so I've done a couple of kind of pieces with Jason and Teresa, vessels like this that we would cut in the saw and drain it. But then we also came with an idea of doing a mold. So this, we didn't work still, we didn't have time, but it's something that it's interesting for me. Many people look after me for big pieces, site-specific kind of projects, because they know I like. And so I have some people like waiting for projects, and one of the projects I would like to develop when I come home is like those kinds of horns, flutes and ears and all sorts of kind of crazy. This is more kind of straight, but I would like to build new different ideas of listening objects that can be put inside the earth with this idea, can you hear me? I think that we should try to hear Gaia, try to hear nature, the earth, the trees, and try to get more sensitive to those beings, because everything is alive. We're just a small stupid part of nature, thinking that we are the only ones, when it's quite the opposite. And so this is a project I would love to do. I'm not sure if I'm using glass this way or the crystals, so I would like to keep bringing together those ideas of herbs and plants and trees and water, you know. So that's it, guys. I just wanted to thank you so much, because you're all so incredible, so amazing. I'm feeling so lucky and so happy. Like, I feel like in Disneyland. I tell like my family, you know, I'm so happy. I'm feeling in Disneyland because it's full of everything is possible. You're very yes people, which is wonderful. And thank you for having me. Thank you for being so welcoming. And you got me.
That was great.
Yeah. It's the first time really. We were working so hard to the last minute to kind of bring it here.
Great job, everyone.
Magic. Did not anticipate that sweet water.
Yeah. This is, yeah, in water I really feel myself in every water I meet. And I like Pittsburgh because you have 3 rivers. I cannot live in any city that there's not a river or a seaside, so for me I could live in Pittsburgh.